What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Average Joe Sports. In today's episode, I'm going over my NFL Week 10 picks. If you're new to the channel, please remember to hit that subscribe button, turn on all bell notifications so you never miss an episode of Average Joe Sports. Also, please remember to hit that like button, as it's the best way to help the channel grow and create a community full of sports lovers just like you. Let's get right into it with the Thursday night football matchup. We have the Baltimore Ravens visiting the Miami Dolphins. The Ravens, they're winning every single close matchup. It does help when you have the best field goal kicker in history statistically and Justin Tucker hitting field goals for you. The Baltimore Ravens went deep into overtime with the Minnesota Vikings. That's something that they shouldn't be doing, or at least making a habit of. But hats off to the Minnesota Vikings. They keep it close in every single game. And it almost took all of overtime for the Baltimore Ravens to finally be able to beat them. But in this Thursday night football matchup, I have the Ravens big over the Miami Dolphins by a final score of 27-6. Next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons visiting the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are coming off an embarrassing loss at home versus the Denver Broncos, and the Atlanta Falcons are riding high, just beating the Saints on the road. In that hostile environment, it's never easy to do. I don't care who your quarterback is. Cordell Patterson is the best non-talked about NFL player in the league right now. I mean, you just really have to think about it. Who talks about the Atlanta Falcons on any national shows? Whether that be in the kick return game, a receiver, a running back, it doesn't really matter. Line this guy up anywhere and he's gonna get you some positive yardage. After going down by one and stopping the New Orleans Saints on converting a 2-point conversion, all the Atlanta Falcons needed was a field goal to win the game. And what do you know? Matt Ryan throws an absolute bomb of a ball to Cordell Patterson, and he makes some people miss. They're instantly in field goal range. That's game-changing moves right there. Hats off to him. And the Cowboys came out flat, and they really paid for it, not getting anything going until the very last few minutes of the fourth quarter. In another upset pick, I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons over the Dallas Cowboys by a final score of 29-23. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars visiting the Indianapolis Colts. These Jag players are coming off probably the biggest win of their careers, beating the Buffalo Bills by a final score of 9-6. A real barn burner that one was. Carson Wentz is king of taking one step forward and two steps back. Both of these teams are really competing for second, third place in the AFC South Division. Tennessee seems to have that division on lock right now. I do have Indianapolis beating Jacksonville by a final score of 23-19. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns visiting the New England Patriots. Both of these teams are coming off impressive wins. The Browns just came off an absolutely dominating performance against the Cincinnati Bengals. Without OBJ, they really seem to be a better team. They ran the ball well. When asked to throw, Baker delivered the ball well. He only threw like 16 passes though. The running game just couldn't be stopped. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb did just test positive for COVID, so I'm not sure the timetable on that, whether or not he'll be back for the Sunday matchup, whether or not he's vaccinated, how long it will take, I just don't know. So hopefully he'll be back in time for Sunday, have 2 negative tests back-to-back. And the Patriots are just coming off a big win versus Carolina. They're above 500. They're in second place in the AFC East, and they're tied with Buffalo with 5 wins each. For a Bill Belichick team who was reeling in the beginning, I think they were at 2-4. They've rattled off a few wins back-to-back, and now they're right in the middle of the playoff contention. And the Browns are trying to get there too, also with a record of 5-4. This game should be really entertaining from beginning to end. But I do have the Cleveland Browns defeating the New England Patriots by a final score of 31-23. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills taking on the New York Jets. The Jets are coming off a really entertaining Thursday night football game against the Indianapolis Colts with a little bit of score origami, the final score being 45-30. That's never happened in the NFL before. The Bills are coming off that terrible loss versus Jacksonville. Josh Allen, the linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, had a better game than Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. He sacked Josh Allen of the Bills, he intercepted Josh Allen of the Bills, and he had a fumble recovery of Josh Allen of the Bills. An absolute crazy game, one that nobody was anticipating. However, the Jets are a different story. Who's going to be their quarterback? Is it going to be Mike White? Is it going to be Josh Johnson, journeyman? Give me the Bills in a make-right game by a final score of 27-13. Next up, we have the Detroit Lions visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. And until the Lions actually prove to me that they can win a game, I'm not going to pick them to win. I have Pittsburgh Steelers by a final score of 24-9. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints visiting the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans looked pretty decent without Derrick Henry as their starting running back. I mean, of course, their defense has really flipped a switch recently and has become one of the best defensive units in the last few weeks. The Saints are coming off a heartbreaking loss versus Atlanta, and Trevor Siemian didn't look that great until the last quarter of the game. Give me the Tennessee Titans to defeat the New Orleans Saints by a final score of 26-21. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Washington Football Team. Is Tom Brady the MVP frontrunner? With the amount of bad games that quarterbacks just had this past week, he possibly really could be. He has the stats to prove it. He's second in the NFL in passing yards with a week in hand after his bye week. 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You be the judge of that. And the Washington Football Team. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick ever going to come back? Or is this Taylor Heineke's team now? I'll take the Bucs winning big by a final score of 34-20. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers visiting the Arizona Cardinals. The Panthers looked great the first few weeks of the season, going 3-0, and now they just look like a shell of themselves. Sam Darnold is back to his terrible interception-throwing ways. The coach is kind of throwing him under the bus. Christian McCaffrey's back, but he can't throw the ball as well. And that young defense is starting to look a little bit tired. You add Stephon Gilmore, and he's a great addition. But once again, Stephon Gilmore can't throw the ball. It's all on Sam Darnold, and if he really wants to ever have a chance at being a starting quarterback in the NFL again, he needs to really prove himself these last 8 weeks. If not, it's going to be the rest of your career as a backup quarterback. And Arizona just won a game where half of their best offensive weapons were out. D-Hop was out. A.J. Green was out. Kyler Murray was out. Their RB1, Chase Edmonds, was out. And you still win the game pretty handedly against a good San Francisco 49ers team. Now, is that 49ers team really that good? Is Shanahan on the hot seat after a couple terrible seasons after their Super Bowl run and loss against the Kansas City Chiefs? Give me the Cardinals in this one. They're just too much. They're clearly one of the better teams in the NFC, and I think they're going to destroy the Carolina Panthers by a final score of 29-13. And guys, if you've been watching this far into the episode, please remember to hit the subscribe button, turn on bell notifications, and like that video. Next up, we have possibly one of the most entertaining games of the week. We have the Minnesota Vikings visiting the LA Chargers. The Vikings play everybody close like we just saw on Sunday when they took it almost to the end of overtime versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now they lost that game, but they were in it. And of course we know that there's no consolation wins in the NFL, but Baltimore and the Vikings have just been going in opposite directions this year. Baltimore has won all their close games. Minnesota's lost all their close games. Eventually, the luck kind of regulates itself, but Minnesota just seems to have one of those cursed franchises in which they can never find any good field goal kicking, and they lose every close game. And Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers are coming off a good team win, beating Philadelphia 27-24. Justin Herbert was really sharp in the game. I think he only had like 5 incomplete passes, over 300 yards, a few touchdowns. That's what you want out of your starting quarterback. It's going to be another close game for the Vikings, but I have the LA Chargers winning by a final score of 27-24 on another last-second field goal. Sorry, Minnesota Vikings fans. It's just the way it goes. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Denver Broncos. The Eagles are coming off a heartbreaking loss versus the LA Chargers, and the Broncos are coming off the best win of their season, beating the Dallas Cowboys 30-16 in pretty dominant fashion from beginning to end. The defense looked good. They got in Dak Prescott's face all day. The Eagles took every punch that LA gave them and punched back. I like their scrappiness, and I'm a fan of Jalen Hurts. He does a few head-scratching plays every game, and he needs to get those under control. Whether or not he's a starting quarterback long-term in this league, I don't know. But for the short term, I think he can get you a few more wins. Give me Philadelphia in this one by a final score of 26-20. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks visiting the Green Bay Packers. Now, the biggest story will be whether or not Aaron Rodgers can get back in time to face the Seattle Seahawks. His COVID isolation is supposed to be up on Saturday. He can join the team. Thankfully, they don't need to travel, so that helps him a lot. Because if the Packers have to face Seattle with Jordan Love as their quarterback, I don't see it getting any better than it looked this past week at Kansas City. Russell Wilson is going to be playing for his Seattle Seahawks. He got his pin out of his finger, and he's ready to go. Now, I've always been a big Russell Wilson fan, and right now they're not in the playoffs. But hopefully, after he joins them, they'll start to put together a few wins back to back to back and get right back into contention. If they want to, this is a huge game, and they really need it. And with all the Aaron Rodgers drama, I smell an upset. Give me the Seattle Seahawks over the Green Bay Packers by a final score of 29-27. Next up on Sunday Night Football, we have the Kansas City Chiefs visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. This is going to be a battle for the lead in the AFC West, and a game in which Kansas City desperately needs. They're on a 2-game winning streak. Can we make it 3 next week against the Dallas Cowboys? Can we make it 4? Go into our bye week at 7-4, and with all the drama that's been surrounding us so far this season, that would be an absolutely huge accomplishment. The Raiders have a lot of drama surrounding themselves. Of course, we know the Henry Ruggs situation, the John Gruden situation a little while back, and now they just released their other 2020 first-round pick, the corner Arnett, after it was seen on Instagram him making death threats with guns. Not a good look at all. In a 1-week stretch, you get rid of both your 2020 picks. And you just came off an upsetting loss when you visited the Giants last week. The Chiefs got the Giants out of there. Why couldn't you? It's because they're going to be reeling. Las Vegas is on their back foot right now, and they're going to be treading water for a long time to come. I like Kansas City in this one. No surprises there. The offense gets back on track, and the defense will prove that they've turned a corner for the better. Give me the Chiefs in this one by a final score of 27-16. And finally, on Monday Night Football, we have the Los Angeles Rams visiting the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams are coming off an embarrassing loss versus the Tennessee Titans without Derrick Henry. They just got overmatched when it came to Tennessee's defense. The offense couldn't really get anything going all game. It was choppy and there was turnovers by Matt Stafford. If Matt Stafford wants to continue to have MVP considerations, he needs to not have another game like that. And guys, what's happened to the San Francisco 49ers? A few years ago, you were in a Super Bowl, and now you're not a good team. Like I said before, Shanahan has to be on the hot seat, no? And at what point in the season do you start Trey Lance? He needs to get his chance, and if you're already out of playoff contention, why not throw him into the fire? We saw how Jordan Love looked after a year and a half of sitting behind Rodgers. Do you really want that for Trey Lance? He needs those game time reps. I don't see the 49ers riding the ship, and if they're not careful, they're going to end up in last place in the NFC West. Give me the Rams big by a final score of 37-20. Alright guys, those were my NFL picks for Week 10. If you're new to the channel, please remember to hit that subscribe button, turn on all bell notifications so you never miss an episode of Average Joe Sports, and please remember to hit that like button as it's the best way to help the channel grow and create a community full of sports lovers just like you. I'll be back with another episode soon guys.